All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a really fascinating and pretty complex genetic condition. It's one that affects the literal framework of the human body. We're talking about Marfan syndrome. So here's a question for you. What in the world connects something like spider-like fingers to a potentially fatal heart condition? I know, it sounds like a weird riddle, right? But this question, it's the absolute core of Marfan syndrome. It links these physical traits that seem totally unrelated to a very real, very serious, and often hidden danger. And you know what? The answer is the key to understanding this whole thing. And the answer, it's all about our connective tissue. I want you to picture it like the scaffolding of a building, or maybe even the body's internal glue and springs. It's the stuff that literally holds us together. It gives structure and support to everything, from our bones and muscles all the way to our blood vessels and our eyes. So you can imagine, if there's a flaw in that fundamental material, well, the effects are going to be felt pretty much everywhere. So where does a flaw like that even come from? To get to the bottom of it, we've got to go deep, right down to the cellular level, to the body's own genetic blueprint. Okay, so let me introduce you to the main player here, a protein called fibrillin 1. Seriously, think of this stuff as the body's biological superglue and its springs. This protein forms these tiny, tiny threads, microfibrils, that give tissues like your skin, your ligaments, your blood vessels, all their strength and their stretchiness. And in Marfan syndrome, it's the genetic instructions, the recipe for building this crucial protein that's got a mistake in it. Now, this genetic hiccup leads to two main types of Marfan syndrome. The vast majority of cases, we're talking over 90%, are type 1. This is caused by a mutation in that FBN1 gene, the one that makes fibrillin 1. And it affects what doctors call the classic triad: the skeleton, the heart, and the eyes. Then you have the much rarer, type 2. This comes from a totally different gene mutation. It looks a lot like type 1, but here's the key difference. It usually doesn't have the eye-related problems. So because this one tiny protein is just so fundamental to so many parts of us, that single flaw creates this massive ripple effect. It leads to a whole collection of signs and symptoms that can pop up all over the body. Okay, so what does this actually look like? Well, the most obvious signs, the ones you can often see, are in the skeleton. People with Marfan syndrome are often very tall and thin, with really long arms, legs, and fingers. And hey, this brings us right back to our opening question. That's where the spider-like fingers, or arachnodactyly, comes from. You might also see things like chest deformities, a curved spine, which is scoliosis, and even a stretching of the tough covering around the spinal cord. That last one is called dural ectasia. But here's the thing. As noticeable as those skeletal features can be, they aren't actually the most dangerous part. This quote, it cuts right to the chase. The most serious risks, the ones that are life-threatening, are hidden away, deep inside the cardiovascular system. And this is the number one danger, plain and simple. The aorta, that's the huge main artery coming out of your heart, it's made of connective tissue. And in Marfan's, its walls are weak. This means it can tear, which is called a dissection. And that is a massive, life-threatening medical emergency. It is the single biggest cause of death for people with Marfan syndrome who don't know they have it or aren't getting treated. So, the heart problems usually start with the aorta slowly widening or dilating. Stress can actually make this happen faster. You can also get problems with the heart's mitral valve. And then you've got the eyes. That same weak connective tissue can cause the lens of the eye to actually slip out of place. That's a classic sign called ectopia lentis. This can also lead to really bad nearsightedness and a much higher risk of the retina detaching. Okay, so you have all these different clues affecting all these different parts of the body. How on earth do doctors put it all together to confirm a diagnosis? Well, it's kind of like being a medical detective solving a really complex puzzle, and it takes a very systematic approach. The investigation usually starts with a really thorough physical exam, checking for all those skeletal signs we talked about. But then come the really crucial tests. An echocardiogram, that's an ultrasound of the heart, to get a good, clear look at the heart and especially the aorta. And a slit lamp exam to see if that lens in the eye has shifted. After that, doctors use a very specific checklist called the Ghent criteria. It helps them weigh all the evidence, the major signs and the minor ones, to make a definite diagnosis. And just as importantly, to make sure it's not another similar condition. And now we get to what is honestly the most remarkable part of this whole story. Because even though we can't cure the genetic problem itself, the way we manage Marfan syndrome today has totally, completely transformed what it means to live with this condition.
Just take a look at this. The difference is absolutely staggering. Before we had modern treatments, the life expectancy for someone with Marfan's was tragically short, maybe 30 or 40 years. But today, with proactive care, with monitoring and the right treatments, people can expect to live an almost normal lifespan, well into their 70s and even beyond. This is nothing short of a huge medical success story. It's incredible.
So, how did we pull that off? Well, it all comes down to three key pillars of management. First up is medication. Things like beta blockers are used to keep blood pressure low, which reduces the constant stress on the aorta. The second pillar is surgery. Surgeons can actually go in and proactively repair or even replace parts of the aorta before a dangerous tear can happen. And finally, there are lifestyle adjustments. This means avoiding really intense physical stress, like contact sports, just to help protect the body from any extra strain. All right, so let's do a super quick recap. If you remember just a few things from this explainer, make it these. The core problem? A faulty fibrillin 1 protein from the FBN1 gene. The biggest risk you have to watch out for? Aortic dissection. The most important test to get? An echocardiogram. And the go-to drug for management? Beta blockers. Got it? Good. And all of this brings us to a really powerful final thought. The story of Marfan syndrome is just a perfect example of this huge shift in medicine, moving away from just reacting to problems and toward predicting and preventing the worst outcomes before they even happen. Think about it. Because we know the body's blueprint is flawed, we can go in and reinforce the structure before it fails. And that just leaves us with one big, important question to think about. How can we take this amazing predict and prevent model and use it to change the future for all sorts of other genetic conditions?